And so that didn't work. And actually, if I'm going to be really honest, I'm pretty sure I was fired from that platform. Like one day I went to go log in and then like it was like access denied. Welcome back to the channel. It's your resident internet. What am I? So I'm starting to love the kitchen setup because it's easy. Part of like how I fall off making so many YouTube videos is because I just can't stand the setup of it. Like I just am not always a fan of the pomp and circumstance of it. Like I used to be the YouTuber that like wanted to go through glam, and I had like tops specifically because you just see the person from like here, right? That was YouTube specific that like I did not like wear anywhere else, but it was just because it looked good on YouTube. But the problem with that is that I don't post, because if I don't feel like putting on makeup or getting dressed or like devoting that much time and energy to something, then I'm not going to do it. And sometimes I have an idea that I just kind of want to riff and like just talk about it. And if I like wait for my filming day, I may just like fall out of the mood. And so I just may do it from my kitchen from now on. I don't know yet, but we'll see how I feel about it. So anyway, I wanted to talk to you guys about being a platform psychic and my experience being a platform psychic, because I've been a platform psychic a few times. And I may have talked to you guys about this previously, but if I have done, it's been years ago and I don't remember what I said. And there's a lot more of you now than there was then. So I figured it's best for me to do it again, particularly because platform psychics are more popular now than they were before. And so I wanted to sort of give you an insight into the behind the scenes and how it works. Before I do that really quick, I think it's really probably a good idea to let you guys know now that if you have been contacted by me asking if you want a reading, it's not me. I would never, ever, ever contact you asking you if you want a reading. Trust me when I tell you, I don't have the time or the desire to find people on the internet and DM them. I barely check my DMs myself, okay? Especially on Instagram. You're better off sending an email, honestly. And even then, sometimes it takes me a little bit to get back to you, right? It's not me. It's not me. It's not me. And unfortunately, people are going around impersonating YouTubers, ones that read tarot cards, pretending to have their own businesses, soliciting people for readings, and then taking their money and scamming them out of it. And that is not me. And any real deal psychic or tarot card reader will not ask you for money and will not ask to give you a reading. That's not how we work. You guys come to us. I'm going to try a new thing too, where I now start asking you to subscribe in the beginning of the video, whereas opposed to before where I was asking at the end of the video because it was always an afterthought and I never really thought about it. So please subscribe. And if you could like it too, that'd be great. I'm going to wait a little bit. Yeah, go ahead. Hit that button. Okay, so being a platform psychic. Now, platform psychics are actually very popular these days. I also want to talk about it just in case some of you guys have been thinking about wanting to be a platform psychic. Maybe you have started reading tarot cards or oracle cards, or maybe you just feel like you're an intuitive person that you can help, a spiritual advisor, whatever. Platform psychics is a combination of all of those, right? So some people on the platforms identify as being a psychic, some don't. Some identify as being a medium, some don't. Some identify as being a psychic medium, some don't. Because you can be psychic and not be a medium, and you can be a medium and not be a psychic, right? Some people are simply tarot card readers. They don't identify as anything else. And I have also seen a lot of people just go in and do oracle cards because it is easier to read oracle cards than it is to read tarot cards, and they do quite well on these platforms. So if it is something that you were considering doing but you maybe stopped yourself because you're like, well, I don't really know if I'm a psychic, or maybe I'm not too comfortable or confident yet in my psychic skills, I don't know if I can do it, you can still do it if you feel like you have skills in other areas. Some people are just astrologers and that's all they do. Some people do numerology and that's all they do. You can have a niche, is essentially what I'm saying. It doesn't necessarily have to be like you're psychic and that is how you identify. And also, I suspect that the reason why these platforms are okay with that is because it's business, right? The more people that you have on there offering the service, the more people are buying and paying for the service, right? So I initially became a platform psychic before I became anything else and before I started doing anything in person, because I actually liked the feeling of not being known on the internet. The first sort of platform I did, I only used to do email readings, meaning someone would email a question and I would send an email response back, right? And that was actually how I got my start. That was also how I was able to practice working with people and not feel that vulnerability of reading. I think a lot of people, when they start reading, whether they're doing psychic readings or they're doing tarot card readings, in the very beginning, there is an intense feeling of vulnerability because you haven't yet built up your confidence. There's a feeling of like, oh my God, is this person judging me? Am I right? What are they thinking? Am I picking up on the right thing that I think that I'm picking up on? What if everything am I saying? What if it's all just crap? Right? And they're like high key, quietly judging me. It's really intense in the beginning when you start doing readings for people. I have met so many people that just ran out there and just ran through hot coals and was like, I don't care, I'm doing this. I don't care who sees it. But when I tell you, I was not one of them. I was very shy and I was very timid and I did not want to do it publicly. And so I started off online as a platform psychic, and my medium was email. And eventually, what started happening was people started asking to talk to me. Hey, this reading was great. I loved your email. It'd be so nice if I can talk to you over the phone. Maybe we can meet in person. And I was like, no, no, I can't. I'm sorry, I can't do it. Right. And so I did that for a while. And then my email turned into texting. And so I was a platform psychic as a texting psychic. So you text in a number and then here I am on the back end answering your questions. I did that for a little bit. Didn't particularly like it. People I find are very demanding through text message because there is an expectation for a quick response. And I'm actually in general, I don't want to say I'm a slow texter. I feel like that is very triggering for people in the dating world right now. But I'm very absent-minded. Like, you just have to call me. I'm like one of those people. I'll see it, have every intention to respond to it, fall asleep with the cookie in my mouth, and then never get back to it, right? Like, I'm one of those. And so that didn't work. And actually, if I'm going to be really honest, I'm pretty sure I was fired from that platform. Like, one day I went to go log in and then like it was like access denied. Oh my God, I just remembered that. And then when I reached out, they were like, we no longer need your services. Oh my God, I could laugh about it now. Oh. Then from there, I did try briefly being a platform psychic where there was like video to video, and that did not work because apparently I'm too pretty for a psychic, which is so weird to me because I find myself to be of average beauty. But when people picture a psychic, they don't picture someone that looks like me. And so when I would do like a live and people would like, you would have an like on the platform, it blinks like when there's a psychic that's available, and it would show that I'm live and it's like video, and people can like join like a chat room and ask questions. And then the longer in their chat room, the more money you make. But people would join the chat room and then they would say, "Oh my God, why are you pretty?" Or like, "You're too pretty to be a psychic." So I think I'm of average looks and average beauty in other places, but apparently in the psychic world, I'm doing okay, apparently. Um, that made me feel intensely uncomfortable because I was like, when you're on the internet, there are people from all over the world, and I don't know who's looking at me, because when you're doing it that way, when you're streaming, it's like how you would stream on Instagram or you stream on YouTube. You can't see who's looking at you, and that kind of weirded me out. And that's also why I don't do lives, by the way, because the idea of like knowing people are looking at me, but like don't know who people are, like who's looking at me when they're looking at me, like really weirds me out. And I recognize that like this video will be on YouTube and it's still the same thing, but there's something about it being live that like I can't take. Like in this case where you post a video and then you walk away, in my mind I convince myself that like it's not happening, but like when it's live it just really does something to me. And so that didn't work out for me very long. And then after that I switched to a different platform in which I did videos, but I wasn't live, right? So it was a recorded video and I can send it to you. So I would say, all in all, in terms of how many platforms I have worked with or for, it has been 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, at least 5 platforms. So I have been around. And so, but I don't work for platforms anymore. And so the reason why I don't is because of the money, right? And so I do think that when you are starting off as a psychic, as a tarot card reader, as whatever, I think platforms are really helpful. I think that you can get an enormous amount of clientele in a really short period of time, because it's the platform's job to bring in the clients, not necessarily yours. You just wait until someone books you. And if you want a lot of practice in a short period of time, you can get it that way, versus maybe trying to practice on friends and family. Maybe you don't know when you're going to see them again. The turnover isn't as fast versus if you do it on a platform. Also, some platforms are really easy to get into. Others, not so much, but some platforms, yes. Some platforms, all you have to do is just say you're a psychic, or you can get away with maybe like doing a 2 or 3 card reading, and they go, okay, great. And there are other platforms where you do have to try out for them. So there may be like a recruitment team, and then you may have to do a reading for one of the recruitment teams, and they assess that. I have been with platforms that assess your accuracy. And I have also been with platforms that don't really care too much about accuracy. They are really just assessing your style. Because at the end of the day, psychic readings are still considered a form of entertainment, right? This channel, a form of entertainment, right? And so they're assessing style. They're assessing whether or not you're entertaining. Some people are really good actors, right? So it really does depend. If you're curious about like, how do I know which one is which? A quick Google search, just type in whatever platform you were thinking about, and then type in reviews, and it'll tell you whether or not that's the one that you should go with or not, or whether or not, it's full of scammers or not. It's actually really easy. It's the internet these days. And yeah, so when you're starting out, you can get a lot of people. And because you're new, you may not necessarily be so bothered by the cut, meaning how much they're making off of you or what the split is, right? They are taking the majority back, right? So it's not like a 50-50 split or a 70-30 split. A lot of times, if you're lucky, it may be a 60-40 split in their favor, or maybe a 70-30 split in their favor. And that's if there's a split. Sometimes they do it by minute. And I've seen it as low as like 3 cents a minute, which is nothing, right? And so the problem with that model, if you are someone that is trying to go get a reading, is that psychic will try to hold you for as long as possible. I actually don't recommend getting readings and when there's a meter. Like you have to pay 10 cents, 20 cents per minute. Sometimes it's like a $3. I've seen it that high before, $3 a minute. I don't recommend doing those readings because that person's incentive is to hold you for as long as possible. So they're going to give you a lot of cliffhangers. Oh, I see something in your future. And they drag it out. Oh, I see a man coming in. and then they drag it out because it's all about the money. It's still business, right? So I wouldn't recommend you getting readings of it from things like that. If you want a reading, use a service in which there's a flat rate, right? At least that way you know what you're getting, right? That person doesn't have an incentive to try to hold on to you in order to get your money, so they're more likely to just say it versus like leaving you hanging, right? um Either way, on the pricing model, if you are someone that's trying to be the platform psychic, if you're on the other side of it, it's fine when you're new, mostly because you probably haven't yet figured out how much you could charge, what you're worth, or what people are worth paying for you. The world of like spirituality and being a psychic is actually really weird because you're priced a lot. Well, I mean, this is economics, but as a psychic, it's not like you can do a market study on like how much psychics make and then price it at the average, because if people don't think that you're accurate or good, they'll just blow you up, right? So your pricing is when you really kind of get to know what you're doing, your pricing is actually determined by your clientele. They will give you what they feel like you should have based off of what it is that you do. And so depending on how busy you get, how much in demand you are, sometimes it can be triggered by whether or not you have a social media following. Unfortunately, but we live in a very superficial age, or just in general how busy you are or how many readings you do. There are some people that don't do a lot of readings. I don't read anymore, just because I genuinely don't have time. And so if I were to do readings, it would be like one reading a week or something like that, because I wouldn't be able to fit that in, right? But because of that, if people really love you, it does drive up the price. But when you start to understand how much you can make by being a psychic, by being a tarot card reader, an oracle card reader, or simply by being a spiritual coach, working as a platform psychic or a platform reader is no longer worth it, because you can make tenfold without them, as long as you're bringing in your own clientele, right? And so how do you bring in your own clientele? The internet, right? If you are someone who lives in an area with a metaphysical bookstore, you can check them out to see if they do psychic fairs. And then if they do, you can volunteer to be a psychic fair. Working a psychic fair is essentially like working a platform, but everything is in person and you can get clients that way, or you can just use that as the opportunity in order to work. You can also go to a bookstore and ask them to join their psychic team. A lot of metaphysical bookstores have psychic teams, which is so weird to say, but they exist. And you can ask them if they have room for someone else. And if they don't have room for another person to join the psychic team, you can just say, hey, do you have a wait list, or can you keep me in mind for when one of your psychics drop out? Because they always do. And the reason why there's a turnover in psychics is because we get burnt out. You get sick of it. It becomes too much energy. You need to go take a minute to recharge. And for a lot of people, that minute can be like a year to get all of your energy back. And so that's when the spot opens up. So you can do that as well. I do think that the payment structure in that is similar to how it works when you're a platform psychic, in the sense of usually that there's a split. I think that splits or it's just in general common in any form of entertainment. And although we don't necessarily always consider psychics that way, for some reason, a psychic or a card reader is such a taboo thing in a psyche that we put it in its own category. But it really is just another form of entertainment. And so it kind of works the same in terms of fees and pricing. But if that was something that you were interested in, that's like a route that you could go. But what was I saying? I feel like I went off on a whole tangent. Anyway, if after you join a platform, depending on which one you want to do and your method, right? So if that's an emailing or texting or video live, whatever, um, that literally is it. Like, you set an online profile. It's like creating a Facebook account or an Instagram account or a TikTok account. Is literally that simple. You upload a photo of yourself. You have a little psychic bio that you put there, and you wait for somebody to book you. Depending on the platform, it can be a little bit competitive. What I would suggest is that you look at other people that are using in the platform as well, see how they're writing their bio, and try to emulate it. Emulate it. That's right? Not copy it, but like find inspiration because it's working, the algorithm likes it, and then also be honest, right? So if you are someone, for example, that you don't do predictive readings, because a lot of people will come there and say, when am I going to get a job? And they expect you to be able to tell them a date or like the approximate date. If you don't do predictive readings, be very honest about those things in your bio. That way you're attracting people that are in alignment with who you are and what it is that you do and the services that you actually care to offer. Now, outside of the business, what is it like? It's aggravating. Lord have mercy. Being a platform psychic is one of the most aggravating things for me. I don't know if it's a me thing or if people actually find it aggravating because I don't actually know any other platform psychics personally. I mean, I know they exist, but like I don't have like platform psychic friends or anything like that. I've actually had a couple of friends that tried to be platform psychics but didn't make it through. Or like didn't make it through the entire process. Because again, some of them you do have to audition for. But I actually found it to be an incredibly aggravating and annoying process. And the reason for that is because you get treated how much you're priced. On platforms, there is a limit to how much you can charge. And or how much you cost is already set by the platform itself, so you don't have any wiggle room or power in saying how much you feel like your services are worth. And the cheaper you are, the more cheap people treat you. If you price yourself cheaply, you get treated cheaply, and I really don't like that. Also, through a platform, because of how it's designed as I was going to say it's designed as a service. I mean, it is a service, but it's designed in a way that's cheap, like it's cheap service. So versus like going to like, let's say you go to a metaphysical bookstore, you actually pay the money to go see a psychic, which is like these days like $100 if you're going into a bookstore. And by the way, the bookstore psychic prices are actually the cheaper versions versus finding someone that's more private that isn't working out of anywhere, or maybe they have their own space. It's going to cost you more than $100. But if you're going through a bookstore, it's about $100. And the reason why they kind of stop it there is because the bookstore wants to make money too. And if you go too high, the concern is people won't book you out. And so the bookstore would rather keep it at a certain level so they can take their split too, right? But when you're so cheap, you're treated almost like a cheap. You would literally think people talk to you sometimes as if you were going through a drive-thru at McDonald's, ordering a side of fries. Like that's how people treat you sometimes when you're a platform psychic. Also, when you're a platform psychic, you don't have any control when it comes to complaints. So the thing I hated the most was having to do like love readings and romance readings. Because if you're a platform psychic and let's say someone says, I'm seeing a married man, and this is not even me being facetious. This is me being like, this is me actually quoting real things that real people have said to me. I'm seeing a married man. He's been married for 12 years. He says he loves his wife, and he's got 3 kids. But he says he loves me too. And he's going to leave his wife for me. Can you tell me when he's leaving his wife for me? I've actually had moments where I've said, he's not leaving his wife for you. Not only through common sense is he not leaving his wife for you. The cards are showing the Tower card, the Death card, the 8 of Cups, the 10 of Swords, the like everything. Like, are you kidding me? Like he's not leaving. And then when they get an answer from you that they don't like, because really what they wanted you to say was that he's leaving tomorrow, they report you. And they report you for inaccuracy. Sometimes they report you for scamming. And when they do that, obviously it's the platform's interest to just cut you. And then so you get cut and you get hit with an email of, we don't need your services anymore. And that can be really hard for platform psychics that are using it as an actual form of income. Like people who are using it as their job and they're working really, really hard because they need to sustain themselves. If you do something like that and people don't like what you said, even though what you said was right, you can be banned from the platform and now you no longer have a way of making money anymore. And so what happens is you end up with an incentive not to tell the truth as a platform psychic. When people start asking you questions like that, because you don't want problems and because you don't want to be reported for saying no, you start to lie. You start to say, oh, I see romance in your future. Oh, give him a little bit of time. He'll come around in 3 days. You start making shit up. And I'm guilty of that, right? Because there was a point in time when I was doing it because I did need some extra money. And I had gotten reported once. And I was like, okay, well, I can't because it's like a strike thing. They may let you off the hook the first time, but if it happens too many times, then you're off. And then when you get banned from a platform, you can't return. And the way companies work, there's usually a parent company, and then the parent company has like 2 or 3 different platforms under it. So if you get banned from one platform, you got banned from all of the platforms under the parent company. And you can't work with or for any of them ever again. It's like a permanent ban. It doesn't lift ever. It's not like a probationary period. And so these platforms end up with a lot of psychics who are probably legit psychics, probably legit card readers who probably aren't telling you legit things. Because if they do and they end up with somebody who was not happy with what they said and they get reported, they can actually risk their livelihood. So for me, I found being a platform psychic to actually be incredibly stressful. I also remember feeling really frustrated at the fact that I felt like I was someone that worked so hard to like hone my craft and a sense of like studying, right? How do things work, practicing, making sure I'm doing it correctly, seeking feedback, to make sure that I'm not wrong, right? And there are a lot of people, because it's the internet, that just jump on and they just start pulling shit out of their ass. And because it's what people want to hear, people are okay with it. And the big companies over these platforms, they don't care so much because it's making them money. And there's no legal obligation to care because it's considered a form of entertainment. So I don't think platforms are like a bad thing. I don't think like you shouldn't use them. I don't think that you shouldn't enjoy them. I don't think that like you shouldn't be a platform psychic. That was just my experience. It just didn't work for me. I've seen psychics on platforms who have been on the same platform for years and they do really well. And so for them, it just means that it's something that's in alignment. For me, it's something that's not in alignment. And like, that's okay. It's not a problem, So I do think that if you're someone that's interested in either being a platform psychic or a platform tarot card reader, or even being someone that uses the services, I don't think there's anything wrong with that, right? I'm just saying, that is what happens behind the scenes, right? Things people don't talk about at all, but definitely things that I have observed. It's an industry. It is a business, and it's a business industry that is clouded in mysticism and secrets. And so people wouldn't even think to ask the question, right? But that was what my experience was, and that is what I saw. But I do stick by the fact that I do think platforms are great when you're learning. They're great when you're learning. They're great when you're trying to create a base for yourself. Now, what I will say is that you can't be a platform psychic and then think you're going to take the clients off the platform. One, it's usually written in the contract that you can't do that. Two, because what the client is paying is so cheap on a platform, they're not going to want to come off the platform to pay you more money as a private psychic. They're just not going to want to do that. Why would you want to do that? I wouldn't want to do it when I could save money over here. You know what I mean? But it's a great tool. It's a great thing to practice. It's a great way to make yourself become a professional reader or professional psychic. It's a great way to get clients fast because it's not your responsibility to find them. It's the platform's responsibility to get them. But that is the other side. So if you're someone that's a customer, just be mindful. Just be mindful of that person, particularly if you start asking them things and they go, yeah, oh yeah. And you start realizing everything is a yes. And you're like, wait a minute. They're not providing any form of constructive criticism. I haven't heard not one no. Be discerning. Not necessarily think that they're lying or being wrong, because maybe it isn't all yeses, but be a little bit more discerning. Anyway, fast forward to now. Am I a platform psychic? Absolutely not. I have not been a platform psychic for some years now. I do get asked regularly, because there are like two ways to be a platform psychic. The first way to be a platform psychic is to apply and to potentially audition depending on which platform it is. And the second way to be a platform psychic is to get asked. And the way you get asked is to have some form of social media presence, and you have something that shows how you read already, right? Like I do have some videos up of me actually reading, and they have teams, like recruitment teams, that see those things, and then they reach out to you and they ask you. I get asked regularly, right? Which again, I don't think it's a problem. It's just being a platform psychic isn't in my awareness. I'm in alignment with me. I'm actually really curious, how many of you guys use platforms? And the reason why I'm asking this is that as a YouTuber, I probably can get a code for you. So, like, if there's like a fair amount of you guys that actually use them, tell me like how often you use them and which one you use, because I probably can find a code for you guys in order for you to actually get some deals on it. So just let me know. Anyway, that's going to be it for this video. As always, if you like what you see, subscribe to this channel, and I'll see you all soon.